Hello and welcome to another episode of Prime Focus, the program that spotlights issues of concern to individuals, families and communities, bringing greater awareness and education with a view to improving the lot of others through anticipated positive actions. We're delighted you've been able to join us today, and if you've never been on this channel, please avail yourself of the plethora of videos that we have of different experts that talk about subjects that pertain to issues that affect many communities. And if any of them you find useful, please make sure you share it with other people as well, and consider subscribing to our channel as well. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the challenges of being a young mother. More often than not, when people hear about a young mother, their minds go straight to particular things. But young mothers go through various kinds of challenges: depression, loneliness, sometimes suicidal, financial, relational issues, and all that. But does it have to be the end of the world? No. Our guest today will be sharing a bit of her own journey, the challenges of it, and how she has found ways or building a system to help her move forward. Tonight, this could be your opportunity if you're a young mother. If you know a young mother, she needs to hear this. My guest today is Nadine Davis. Nadine is a mother, a fashion designer, and a founder of Strut Daily, a women's wear fashion service. Nadine is also the creator of Prosperous Kei blog, chronicling her journey and experiences in her quest to fulfill God's vision for her life. Nadine looks forward to using the growth of her blog and business, leveraging the success of both to support others and for community enrichment. Nadine, welcome to Prime Focus. It's a pleasure to have you join us today.
Hi, thank you for having me. And I love that introduction. Thank you.
You're welcome. Right. Nadine, you and I spoke a little while ago, and I was intrigued by some of the parts of the story I heard about you, and I thought it'd be good for other people to hear some of what you've got to say. So let's start with a little bit of maybe something to do with your background, if you don't mind. Share a little bit about your background and what has led to where you are currently.
Okay. Well, I am one of 6 girls from my mum. We grew up in Hackney, and I think having sisters, I'm the 4th child, so having sisters that were older in different, I guess, cultural styles and just in our area, I was exposed to a lot of creativity, music, and that inspired like my fashion journey, plus being Jamaican. When I used to go to Jamaica, I used to see a lot of like yardie parties, like Pastor and stuff that are quite old school, but who knows. And those women inspired me there too. I would say with my mum, she was a very strong single mother. I saw her raise me and my sisters to always have each other's backs. So along all of that came some struggles, but overall, I was able to learn a lot, and it's helped me be who I am today.
Interesting bits there. Coming to another part of you, because I know you do a number of things. So my question is, how do you manage your time? Obviously, you're a mother, as you said, and you do business. I believe you're also in education.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you combine all these different roles, taking care of your children, schooling, work, and all that?
I think for me, I had to learn the importance of like leaning on your community, because it does take a village to raise a child. But I think I'm quite an organized person because I had to learn how to be. And like I said, we've grown up with 5 different women, and not including my mum. We had to learn how to work around each other's time and be considerate. So I think it taught me to manage my time quite effectively. And I like to involve my children in what I do. My 10-year-old takes my pictures for my blogs a lot of the time. He takes my pictures for my social media. So it's something that pours back into us. So I always want to encourage collaboration within my family and just supporting each other with whatever we want to do. Like my son does football. We're outside all the time, so we all we don't hold like tabs on, oh, I did this for you, so you must do it for me. But I want to, I guess, instill in my children the importance of collaboration and supporting each other, being in this household where each other's biggest supporters. So, yeah.
Wow. So if somebody was to ask you one word that describes you, what would the word be? I mean, there could be many words out there: creative, diligent, whatever. How would you describe yourself?
I think just like very intentional. I would say intentional.
I like that.
Yeah.
Intentional. And I think that's going to be very important for many people. I know you talked about your journey, that it wasn't always very easy. I mean, were there times when you felt like depressed and things like that?
Yeah, I have experiences with depression. I think like from childhood we moved around a lot because, like I said, my mum was trying to do a lot on her own. And then when my older sister stepped in, like I guess it sort of took away from them being like young women. So we all had to sort of grow up, and like I guess it shapes a lot us all in different ways. And we're like, if you meet my sisters, I think that word describes them amazingly as well. They're very intentional, and I think it's just because we understand loss, we understand that pain. And I think for me, the first time we moved out of like the place we knew as our home, I think I was 10, 11 going into secondary school. So it was like at a very important time in my life. So yeah, I think that was the first time I remember experiencing depression because so much was going on. And I think my sisters were just trying to like support my mum. So they didn't really understand that I needed to like someone to explain to me, because they were like, what, 18 or 19, the oldest sister was 18, 19 herself. So she couldn't have the emotional maturity, and she wasn't my mom, to understand that I needed to understand what was going on. So yeah, from there, I think I just never really spoke about things, just understood that you just get on and get on with things. I think that's very common for women, but especially Black women. Like you don't, no one cares. You just have to keep going. So, and that was something that I believed in my head, that nobody cares. You just have to keep going. But the older I got, the more I saw that I can't do everything alone. Like I need my sisters, I need my mum, I need like good people to navigate through this world, and so do my children. So yes, depression is something that I have battled with at times. I think through finding God and connecting with people that believe in God too, I don't know, I have low moments like anybody else, but I wouldn't kind of label it as depression anymore.
That's right.
So yeah, I think I've just over time I've gained more like resourceful coping skills when things do get quite rough.
I like that, coping skills. Okay, we will talk a little bit about that as well. What would you say were your biggest, or some of your biggest challenges when raising children on your own, or what have been some of your biggest challenges?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I completely do it alone. I'm not. Both of my children's fathers are there, but I would say the day-to-day running of providing and just having the mental and emotional, I guess, energy to pour into your children when, like, I guess when it's a rough day or when things haven't worked out in my own life, it can be quite challenging. But I think I probably will say this word a lot, but intentionality and just trying to be a conscious parent, I think helps me a lot. And just praying and asking for advice, because I don't think there's anything that anyone's been through that someone else hasn't experienced in their own way. So yeah, I don't have a lot of friends. I'm very selective and intentional with who I have around me and close to my children. But they are people that I can speak to, that I can be honest and transparent with. So if it is a bit rough, I've learned to talk it out. And I think like sometimes I just look at my boys and I say to them, I'm so blessed, and they laugh and we cuddle and stuff, and we have our thing called like a family hug. But yeah, I think I just try to remain present and positive, because I recently wrote a blog post about this, like me worrying too much into the future isn't going to make those things happen any quicker. It's just going to stress me out, and my head's going to be elsewhere. And I think that happens a lot in with a lot of like homes where the mum is the person that lives with the child. So yeah, we kind of get distracted by trying to make sure they've got everything they need, but sometimes they just need to be here with them at home in the mess, in whatever it is, and just be present.
All right, that's the key word there, present. I like that. Yeah. Um, can you describe a moment, if there has ever been one, a specific moment when you felt overwhelmed and how you managed to overcome it? I thought the question would be helpful maybe for other young mothers like yourself who just think that I hear a phrase sometimes from mothers, oh, I have a lot going on and all the other stuff, and I keep asking, what do they mean by have a lot going on? So can you address that? I mean, have you had this moment like that?
Yeah, I think as soon as you said that, what came to mind was an incident with my son's first school. I think they call it unconscious bias now. It's a polite way to say that people are being racist. But yeah, my son was having a hard time at his first primary school, and I found it very difficult. I had just got like my first full-time job since having him, so he was at school from like 5:40. I think it was about 7:45 until 5:45, and I was so stressed in with the teachers because I just felt like their negative attention on him just came out of nowhere, and I was overwhelmed. I didn't feel like anyone was communicating like properly with me because they just assumed that I was a young mom, and they were ready to put all these labels on my son. And like by the grace of God, a teacher in that school who no longer works there had said to me, yeah, like he just doesn't understand what's going on. So, and he's asking for help, but he's being ignored. So then he's just shutting down, and they're classing it as him being naughty. And that's when I had to pull on other Black women because I had met another lady through my son's football club whose older son had experienced something like that. So she supported me. But I think when mums say they've just got a lot going on, they have to navigate through their own stuff as a woman, trying to learn how to be their mum their children need, which is ever change. Like that's something that changes all the time as they get older, as they go to school, as they navigate friendships and different social settings, like trying to make sure they're providing enough, especially if they have partners or their children's fathers aren't doing as much as they could do or need to do. And I think sometimes it can all feel like a lot. And we need those moments where people just kind of be a bit considerate to that, like, we've got a lot going on. It might just mean that we need space in our head to like, I don't know, catch up to how fast my life and our children need us to move. But I think that situation I think that's when I realized that I can't do this alone. Like there's even with my children's fathers, there's stuff that we won't understand. So we need a community. We need to be able to like lean on other people when we don't know how to handle a situation, especially if it's our first time experiencing it. Like from that situation with my son's school, I moved him to a different school. Like his interest in education like increased completely. He enjoys reading, and at that school, although it was scary for me because I'm like, oh, I'm going to change his school. He's going into year 3 and like he's made friends already. It just taught me how, as a parent, you kind of have to stand confidently in being an adult and making choices that your child might not always understand, but it's necessary. And I think I had my oldest at 21. He's now 10. I'm now 31. And that has been a battle for me, just wanting to, in some ways, be his friend and be his mom, but also understanding that discipline is like one of the biggest forms of love, especially for like young Black boys. So, yeah, I think I navigate. I hope I didn't go too all over the place with the quick answer, but yeah, I navigated through that stressful time by like leaning on other women and just.
You said label, and so I wanted to know how that related to you. I know generally you would find young mothers get labeled from my research generally across, but speaking as a Black young mother, how does the labeling come across? Does it just relate to you? Does it relate to maybe your children and things like that as well?
I think in some environments it can make you a bit of a target, especially if they see that. I'll just speak for some schools. If they see that you are like your child's main carer, or they assume that you're a single parent, I feel like it can make your child a target. And I feel like not only is there damage being done by people putting labels on single mothers, young mothers, just mothers in general. I think sometimes when we kind of get a whiff of those statements or those labels, we can sort of limit ourselves as well. And sometimes we sharp into places thinking that people are thinking stuff about us because we are a young mum, a single mum, or anything else that we are sort of labeling ourselves with to limit ourselves. But I found that, I don't know, people wouldn't expect me to, when I was younger with my son, people didn't expect me to know certain things. They didn't, when I would speak up for myself or him, they were surprised that I didn't just take things lying down. And yeah, I think I just had this strong sense from when he wasn't this cute, chubby little baby anymore that he would be like, I think adultified is the word, because he's a young black boy. And we always hear it happening with young black girls, but I think it happens with young black boys as well when they stop getting the nice, cute hellos from everybody and they're sort of like, oh, like, and it's not okay because to me, I try to avoid worrying too much about stereotypes. Oh, you can't dress this way because people are going to think this. I think black boys more than anybody need to be encouraged to embrace who they are, especially within our own community, because then it's easy to do it when they're outside in places where not everyone's going to look like them. So yeah, I think the older I got and the more confident I got in the fact that God puts me to be his mum for a reason, or both of their mums for a reason, I try to not let whatever labels people want to put on me get to me.
You mentioned when I read your blog or your website, you mentioned feeling suicidal at a point. I thought I was bold of you to say that, and that was also caring of you at the same time to say that to help other people. How did you find the strength to move past that difficult period?
I think speaking up and just sort of, like I said, getting those coping skills. I was in therapy a few years back and the therapist told me to write down every negative thought you have about yourself and then like on one sheet of a side of a paper and then fold it over and write the opposite of all of those things. And when you're in a really dark place, some coping mechanisms or skills don't work. But I think once again, we're not meant to do this life alone. I would definitely feel like taking my relationship as a Christian with God more seriously has helped me to have strength in ways that I didn't have before. So when I used to get those suicidal thoughts, I would kind of lean on my own understanding. And yes, it would get me through it. And yes, maybe speaking to friends, going around my sisters. I wouldn't always say anything to my sisters and my mum, but just being around them at times would lift me up again. But that can only last so long. But when I started to believe in God more, and I've always believed in God, but when I started to read the Bible more and just kind of be more intentional with how I was navigating and just trying to be a reflection of how God wants us to be, I think that helps me a lot. Just praying, and I think it's just boundaries. And that goes into sort of self-care as well. Just having boundaries, just being very intentional with who I have around me and the environments I allow myself to be in as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's look at just one more thing on that area. I know you've touched on it already in terms of being intentional. How did you maintain your mental well-being while juggling so many responsibilities?
I haven't been the best at it. I think I'm the one that my friends always preaching to me about, make sure you do something for yourself, or they'll send me money, or they'll send me the nice things to just make sure I'm doing some stuff for me. But I think I do we can't always get babysitters or whatever else, but I think fashion is becoming a big way for me to do that again. Taking the time out to plan an outfit, to take care of myself, to put a bit of makeup on. I think that's my way of showing up for me. And the reality is the only way I've been able to do that is by getting up an hour or two before my boys. And whether I get dressed up or I'm going anywhere that day, it allows me just to kind of give the day to me before I give it to everyone else. I do. I'm a part of a power prayer circle, so I have some time in that in the morning as well. But before that, I have time to just kind of take care of myself, shower, just ways of taking care of me. So I think for now, that's what I can do, because my boys are at ages where they're 10 and 2. So the 10-year-old is in football. He's going into year 6 where he's going to be doing SAT. So I think it's just about being honest with what you can do at this current season of your family's life. There might be a time when I can go away for a week by myself and stuff like that. But I wouldn't really want to right now, because we're still finding our flow and establishing like our boundaries and like our goals as a family. So
Yes.
yeah, I do what I can when I can.
Thank you so much, Nadine, for the point you shared about being present, being intentional, and a support system. Actually, I want to come to the support system itself as a question or a set of questions. So, who or what has been your greatest source of support during this journey?
Okay, I would say like my mum, my sisters, and my friends, and obviously not to forget God. Um, with my mum and my sisters, I feel like they are my happy place. There's this term that I came across this year, and it said "go where the love is." And no matter what I'm going through, if I go and spend time with any of my sisters or my mum, like I feel like yeah, I can go out and face the world again. And with my friends, I would say that they're the people that I can go to about anything because we're all kind of like growing. We're all like similar ages, similar backgrounds, and we can go to and be honest with each other about anything because we've been very intentional about creating a safe space within our friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a big thing with support systems is like you have to like show up in the way that you want to receive like love, honesty, and trust. So with me and my friends, we always say that we have to be able to tell each other the truth. And we have to understand that whether it's something we want to hear or say, just know that we can do it with love and be kind, but still be very like truthful, even if it's gonna hurt. And I think that's important. Like I always say to my son that you can't like expect to have a bunch of yes men around you and expect to grow. You have to have friends where you can be honest with them and they can be honest with you. So yeah, I would say those people are my biggest support system. And I mentioned before that I recently joined the Power Prayer Circle. That's the name of the circle, and these are a group of almost 75 women. The founder, the creator of it was put on her heart to do it by God. Her name's Simone Williams, and yeah, it's just an amazing circle of women of all different ages, like seasoned women in Christ and women like myself who are new to that journey. And it's just a space to just like learn the ways and word of God and just build up your own relationship with God. Like there's no pressure to conform to what different people's version of Christianity is. It's just a place that is really about God and it's intentional with, I guess, letting women grow in Christ. But yeah, I would say those would be my biggest support system. And like not to forget my children. Like I said, I'm very intentional with us like being a team. I always say to my eldest, like when we go out into the world, there may be things we come across, but here should be like a safe place. We should feel supported here. We should feel respected, and we should feel like we shouldn't be making things harder for each other. So yeah, I was like, I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. No one should cuss me, but
Thank you so
those are the
much for
people that
that.
come to mind. Like if I'm feeling down, if I feel like, yeah, like those are the people that came to mind straight away for me that I didn't have to think too hard. But yeah, just is what it is.
So, would you say to anybody out there who's going through some kind of experience of, as a mother, in particular, a young mother who's gone through any maybe like depression or loneliness or low self-esteem or relational issues and all that, would you suggest to such people to find a support network for themselves?
Yeah, and I think when you're going through it and you feel safe being at home just with you and your children, it's the most annoying thing to hear. But I feel like it's been transforming for me. Like it's not no one expects to have like for me anyway, I didn't expect for neither of my relationships to work out. I wanted that family unit. I didn't just have like children to have babies. I was hoping to have a family on both occasions. But and it doesn't work out. And sometimes when your relationship doesn't work out and you're a mother and you've now got a baby from that relationship, you kind of lose yourself because you spend so much time trying to make the relationship work, trying to be a good mom, trying to balance the relationship if there are issues there. And then you come out of it and then it's just like, oh, I'm a mum. I've poured so much time into everyone else, but now I'm just here left as me. And that is enough. In that moment, you might not feel like it is, and I feel like that's why the support system comes in place, because there was times when I didn't know who I was. And then just being around my friends, being around my family, and my friends saying something like, oh, you're so fun. Just a passing compliment or just a passing comment can start to remind you again of who you are. Because without mirrors, we can't see ourselves. So I'm a strong believer that other people are our mirrors. And you can't give that privilege to everyone. Like, it has to be from your support system. They're going to remind you of who you are when you forget yourself. I think we're meant to speak life and power into each other when we forget ourselves, because no one's going through this life and not going through anything. But if you have people around you that are safe and loving to you anyway, like, yeah, they can pour into you and you forget yourself. Like, it took me a long time to know this, but you can't like do it all by yourself. So I think for me, I had to work on the negative thoughts I had about people, assuming that everyone was going to be a gossip, assuming that everyone would stab me in my back, that they would be mix up, and just, and it doesn't happen overnight. You don't just say, oh yeah, like I need to let go of these thoughts. It takes kind of checking yourself as soon as you think negative. It takes checking yourself when you kind of like try to play the victim as soon as something goes wrong, or you sort of avoid saying sorry or being accountable for the part you play in some relationships, whether it's family, like romantic, or friendship. Like, you have to start being accountable for the part you played. So I think, yeah, you like, I just don't see how you can do it without and be who like God wants you to be to your children. Because yeah, I can take care of them, but I think each person gets assigned to be like a mother or father, because there's something in you that your child needs to learn from you, and you need to like, that will get pulled out more. Like, my sons have like my goofy, dancey side. I see so much of myself in them, and I like that. And yeah, when I started to lose that side of me, it made me sad, because then they reminded me of it, but I just didn't feel that part of myself anymore. I think, yeah, I just don't see how you can do it without a support system, because at times when I don't always have the money to take my sons here, there and everywhere, if it's not my youngest son's dad taking them out or his family, sometimes my friends will just be like, oh yeah, like I'm coming for this son, like you need that, because yeah, it's just nice. And my sons appreciate it. My friends are not called friends, they're called auntie this, auntie that, uncle this, like, so
Okay.
yeah, it's important to have your support
Journey
system.
yourself. But the good thing about your journey is that you didn't stay where you were. You didn't get stuck in a place. You did something about it. So I want to come to talking about empowering others. So in what ways do you see someone like yourself making a positive impact on the lives of other young mothers?
My way of trying to create like a positive impact for mothers is by like just authentically sharing on my blog for now. I want to keep it as a safe space. I don't want it to become too much about being an influencer, getting collaborations and paid to do stuff. That would be nice, but I think my main focus is to keep it as a safe, authentic and open space where I can transparently speak about a lot of the issues that I've either been through or I know other mothers go through. So I do want to be able to eventually put on events, and I am in the process of starting up a CIC that will support like mothers and young women through workshops on debt management, financial education, just knowing how to get the right sort of like life insurance for themselves, their children, and just working with so many amazing people that have helped me throughout my life or that I've come across in my life. I want to be able to pull all those people together and create a community interest company that helps women and families along the way of their own individual journeys through stuff that I know that so many of us struggle with and may not know where to turn to.
Yeah, sounds very exciting. Right. I guess that also would answer my next question in terms of dreams for yourself and for your family, or only probably partly, because I know you have a business side too.
Yeah, so with my business, it's the same age as my son. So it's 10 years old. I started it just after I had him, and I didn't know what I was doing. So I made like a lot of mistakes, trusted a few of the wrong people. But now I've got the confidence to start it back again. So it's Strut Daily. It's a fashion service for women, and I will also be offering like sewing classes, and I guess using it as part of my CIC to provide young girls with like sewing skills and like a fashion show. Like, you'll see it soon. But yeah, I'm looking forward to just growing that, and yeah, like encouraging my sons to be a part of it, because like I'm really enjoying the different side of me and my oldest son's relationship, with him taking pictures of me. It's helping us to kind of like, one, realize the issues in our communication, and I guess just address it and just learn how to be a team, because it's easy to preach these values as a parent, but like, I guess backing them up with actions and being able to be like, okay, the way I say this and the tone may not be helpful. Him working with me has given me the opportunity to do that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to growing Strut Daily, to my boys being a part of it.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow. I like them, a mother-son team in that business relationships. Good. Pick up good entrepreneurial skills as well. Yeah. Right. So what advice would you give to young mothers who are feeling hopeless or stuck in a similar situation?
Okay. I would say just like hang on, because I know as cheesy as it sounds, it can't like rain forever. So I feel like if you just hang on and you do what you can, I feel like sometimes we're thinking of like, for me, I've been wanting to like move and own a home for a long time. But if I'm being honest with myself, am I ready to take on the responsibility of like a mortgage? Am I ready to take on the responsibility of if my boiler breakdown, that's coming from my pocket, not my housing association or landlord or anything? So I think sometimes there's so much we can do in our present season. And because we're too focused on the past and we're too focused on the future or beating ourselves up about our past, we're not able to presently be grateful for what we have, but also just work with what we've got in that moment. So I would just say, like, you're allowed to feel what you're feeling and you need to. But I think there's this saying, like, you can't let your storm like rain on your children. So I think it's hard, and it's like I had to kind of just like suck it up, just to say it in a direct way. But you have to be able to give yourself the grace, be kind to yourself, but also realize that you are your children's mum for a reason. If anyone's going to get it done, it's you. Like, don't be afraid to ask for help and just work with what you've got. Like, you don't need, like, I know social media shows different, but you don't need your children to be going to these overpriced activities if you haven't got it right now. You don't need to have the biggest house. You, like, for me, I've wanted to garden for a long time, but only when I started to appreciate my flat was when it started to feel like our home again. And I think just the importance of knowing that you set the tone for your family and teaching our children to be grateful with whatever we have in this moment is only going to like allow us to make room and prepare us to be able to receive more. So I would just like to just put it shortly after that long outpouring. I would just say, just work with what you've got, give yourself grace, and understand that like it's not meant to be completely difficult, but it's not meant to be easy too. So everything you need to know, you can learn, you can Google, you can read books. So just give yourself grace, be kind to yourself, but also just work with what you got.
The question is, how do you stay motivated? I mean, using your own example, stay motivated to pursue education, career goals, whilst being there for your children? Because I know you said your children mean a lot to you. You revolve a lot of things, but how do you also now bring in that other aspect of what about me?
Yeah, I think, and don't get me wrong, my children are a big source of my motivation, but I've had times of depression and suicidal thoughts since having them both. So I think that showed me that it's not fair to put all my motivation on, like expect all my motivation to come from them. But also, it's too much of a burden for them to carry. It can't all be like, they can't be my source of inspiration, because sometimes they get on my nerves. And they say like parenting isn't a job you should do for gratitude. But
I like that.
I remember that saying, just like, it always wakes me up when my children are just like, when I'm thinking, say you're so ungrateful, I'm like, yeah, it's not a job you do for gratitude. But I think I had to get to a point where I wanted to live, and I wanted to live my life for me, because like, I'm here, why wouldn't I? And it took a long time for my headspace to get to that point. Like, when I get up and I come to classes, like, it's because I care about expanding my education. I want to get a degree. I want to be able to, I guess, navigate in certain environments. I wanted my business to be successful. I want my community interest company to be successful. So I think it just came from my self-esteem growing. I wouldn't say it's fully grown. It came from my self-love. And it came from just knowing that like God like loves me, no matter what I've been through, no matter what I've done. Like, yeah, we wasn't brought here to struggle. There's more to life than that. And I think that's just my biggest motivation. Just knowing that like God's promise is real, and just knowing that I deserve it. Like I've experienced, I think in my 20s, so many, like I've lost like a close family friend or a close relative like every year in my 20s. So just seeing, going to those people's funerals and seeing that they were very celebrated and the way they touch people in big and small ways, but it was impactful, just made me see it's not even about having a bunch of people to celebrate me when I'm gone. It's just about really being intentional with living life while I'm here, because and no one really knows what happens once your time's up. But like I think I've got in my head this thing of like, it's not over until it's over. So even if I have a bad day, a bad month, a bad year, like if I've got up that next morning, I always just say thank you, because this is another chance. So yeah, I think it just came from just seeing a lot of loss, like just wasting a lot of time beating myself up for the past, and then just being like, okay, if I'm here, I'm gonna like make stuff happen. So and if it takes me a bit longer than other people, that's okay. I'm not running anyone else's race. I'm like, it's me and God. Like, yeah. So
thank you so much for that. I know you've talked about dreams for yourself already, but what about for your family? And do you have long-term dreams for your children?
Yeah, I do. So my son, no matter what my children want to do, I think I just want them to be their best selves at it. And I think just having a commitment, like being dedicated to whatever you say you want to do, just doing it. I think for me, I'm always like, oh yeah, like when you guys get married and stuff like that. And like and it's nice to hear my son say, like, yeah, like I'm looking forward to when I get married and like I have children. So and me and my cousin always speak about this, that sometimes we do feel like a lot of parents from our parents' generation, they didn't really have any long-term goals for us. Like they seemed very distracted by whether it was their finances, by the relationship problems, by just their own problems. But I think for me, like I pray for my son's futures all the time. Like my son wants to be a footballer. It does take a lot of commitment. It does take a lot of dedication. But I just pray that if it's God's like will for him, that I pray that it does happen for him. And I always call my youngest my little engineer, because he's always taking things apart and really fascinated like how they look like that. But whatever they want to do, to be honest, no matter who they turn out to be, I just hope that they're happy, that they're authentic selves. I always pray for their friendships. I feel like men's friendships are like so important, because men are like very easily influenced, I believe, not to bring sex into it. But I feel like when men have a good set of friends around them, there's like, I've seen it with a few of my male friends, when their childhood friends, them growing up and just being genuinely caring for each other, genuinely supporting each other when they do well. It's powerful. So yeah, I'm not one of those parents that say, yeah, you have to get a degree, you have to do this, you have to do that. No, whatever you do, try and be your best at it, commit, be like a person of your word. Like I teach my boys to pray. My 2-year-old tries to rush to say the prayer and eat his food slowly, but he will still say his amen. If we just sit down and try to go and eat, he'll put his hands out and say, come and hold my hand. But I think it's more so about their character and being like having respect and manners, more so than, oh yeah, I want them to be doctors. I want my son to be a footballer. That stuff, if it's meant to happen, it's going to happen. But it's just more so about their attitude and their mindset that I'm focused on.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So important. Thank you for those wonderful insights there. What lessons or values do you hope to instill, which of course you've touched on some already here, from your own experiences though?
Yeah. I would say that, like, I'm going to say it again, I think the manners and respect, because that was something that my mum and my sisters instilled into me. And I feel like I've met people who have looked out for me because of how kind my mum was to them. And I would say manners and respect, because I don't know if it's a real saying, but I remember in, what is it, The King's Men, where one of the actors says something like, manners maketh a man. And I'm a strong believer of that. And I would just say as well, just paying it forward. I think a lot of young Black boys in London especially don't really care about their community because they have no part in it. So I think community engagement is something that I want to do more of. My oldest son did a bit of it with me before when I used to do these accountability workshops. So he saw the importance, a bit of the importance of paying it forward and helping where you can and doing your part. But I think it's something that when I do start my CIC, I want to be very intentional about letting my boys do what they can, but also see me doing it. Because I would say, so just to put it simply, I would say manners and respect, paying it forward, and community involvement. But I would also say, like, taking care of themselves. You can't do for everyone unless you're doing for yourself. So my oldest is like such a good friend, and I'm not being biased because he's my child. Like he all his friends' parents always say to me he's such a good friend. But he recently had an incident where he had a not so nice friend, and I had to be like, yeah, I'm stepping in. You can't be this boy's friend anymore because he's not your friend. And I felt bad because the other little boy was only 10 as well. But for whatever reason, he was just doing stuff that weren't really kind and could have had like lasted damage on my son's like mental health. So I had to realize that self-care is something that I need to teach my oldest son, especially because he's such a giver. And I was as well, where like he kind of got that people pleasing tendency from me. And as I work to kind of get rid of it, I think I have to encourage that in him. It's not selfish to take care of yourself, and you can do for others, but just make sure your cup is full first. And then you can, from the overflow, you can give to others.
Yes, thank you. You talked about conversations with your son. Have you had a couple of difficult conversations or explaining challenging situations to your children?
Yeah, quite a few. We live in like London, so we've seen things happen. My son has seen like someone on the floor when they got stabbed in their like neck, and we've just seen a lot of things. So I had to explain a lot to him about why some people live the way they do. And I think a lot of the time it's like, oh, but why is people allowed this to happen? Like, why aren't they scared to do this stuff? And it's like, oh, aren't they scared to hurt somebody else? And it's hard to have those conversations because a lot of the time I don't understand why a lot of the things that are going on. But I think I just try to be as honest as I can in an age, like, I guess, respectable way. And yeah, he's even asked me questions about like his dad. And I just said to him what I wish my mum had said to me when I didn't see my dad that often or frequently. It's just like, it's nothing to do with you. If like, never take it personally. I got into more detail that I won't say on here because it's me and his conversation, and he's like entitled to his privacy. But yeah, I think
That's right.
it's not the only hard questions that he's ever asked me. And I'm pretty sure he'll ask me a lot more. But I think what I've learned from other mothers who have raised their sons around areas like this or in situations like mine is just always be as honest as you can in a child, like, I guess, appropriate way. Yeah.
Okay. So you would say from your experience that you wouldn't close a subject that your older son would bring up. You wouldn't dodge a question or stuff like that.
I would rather him come to me and ask me and like I feel uncomfortable for a little bit instead of him going on Google or asking one of his friends, because like yeah, there's children can be overexposed to so many things. And he was homeschooled at one point, but he goes to a public school where like not everyone's upbringing is the same place. All his friends may not have the same values that he has in his house. So yeah, if I can sort of guide him on certain subjects, then I would do that. I think especially in this time, it's so important for your children to be able to speak to you, even if they don't do it straight away. Like, I think they have to be able to come speak to you because there's so much that they're exposed to now. So making them feel ashamed or scared to come and ask questions, yeah, I wouldn't want my son to feel like that.
Okay. Because I mean, it's often said that when people don't get the listening ear at home or the acceptance, then they look for it elsewhere, as you said. Yeah, so it's great that people are encouraged to do that. Okay. Right, let's talk a little bit about success and celebration. I know you don't focus on those things you said before, but
Yeah.
can you share a proud moment or accomplishment you've achieved since embarking on this journey? It could be something related to you, it could be related to your children. Any proud moment or accomplishment?
Yeah, I would say I am proud of like my blog. I am proud of like my consistency with putting stuff out there, um and the feedback I get from like mums who I am trying to reach out to and people I'm trying to reach out to. I'm also proud of like the network I'm building. But I think the biggest thing for me is just like I feel like I'm being a good mum to my children.
Mm.
And I feel like that's the most important thing. I feel like that was the key motivator to me kind of going on this journey of self-love and like caring about myself and liking myself and wanting to actually be alive. Like
Mm.
that all started from like, yes, it like the main focus was my children, but then I realized it can't be all on them. It has to be me liking and loving myself. And them loving me has like made me love myself even more. So I would say I think the biggest thing is just my boys being able to enjoy me and me being able to presently enjoy being their mum.
Mm.
But yeah, I just feel like every time I go to sleep and wake up, they're both getting taller. The youngest one's speaking more and more.
Mm.
Yeah, so I think that just being, I think that will always be my biggest accomplishment. Just no matter how much money I make, if I buy one house, 10 houses, I'll always be proud of that stuff because of the
Mm.
work and dedication it takes. But
Mm.
yeah, just feeling like I'm here, I'm presently with my children is the biggest thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Awesome. That is so powerful. How do you celebrate your successes though? Whatever you've achieved, no matter how big or small, how do you keep your spirits? I know people celebrate in different ways, but how do you celebrate, or you don't celebrate at all?
I don't think I really celebrate, but I do
Mm.
acknowledge it because
Okay.
as much as I can be present and grateful for where I'm at right now, I know that, and I know people say you shouldn't have regrets. I don't have any regrets, but I can be honest with myself that I spent so much time on other people, wanting validation and love from others, that I definitely slowed down a lot of the success I could have had. And
Mm.
God always had me in the right places. I always would be have really good jobs and have really good connections. But yeah, I was just focused on the wrong thing. So that doesn't mean that I can't celebrate. I do. I note things down in my journal. I have a little dance. I'll celebrate myself. I'll share my success. I'll unapologetically post about it. But and I'll always give thanks. But yeah, I just like kind of want to keep going. It's not
Mm.
really just about me. I think we're all meant to be here and use whatever gift we have, even if we can't put our finger in it. But what we're able to make happen, we're meant to share it with others. So I think when I like start doing more to help mums in like that have been through similar things to me, yeah, then I'll feel like yeah, my
Mm.
celebration will be them getting help.
Mm. Awesome. I'm going to come to advice to others. I know you have an Instagram page as
Yeah.
well. Is that for your business, or is
Oh, so
that
I
a
have one that's
personal?
like a personal one that is like
Okay.
my blog one.
Okay.
I have one for my business
Okay.
and I have one for the CIC, but it's private until I get everything up in motion and started
Okay.
properly.
Good.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay. So, what three pieces of advice would you give to young mothers who are struggling to find their footing? Any three pieces of advice?
Yeah.
Maybe something you said before. Probably, I'm just guessing. You might add being intentional.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I don't know. I think don't try to like run before you can walk.
Mm.
I feel like I used to put so much pressure on myself that my house wasn't always tidy, but one of my friends brought to my attention that you and your boys actually play in your house. Like you have fun. You don't just sleep there. It's not just a pretty house. You live there. You actually live in your house. So it's going to be messy
Mm.
sometimes. And I think that just comes with accepting where you are. So I think that's the first bit of advice
Mm.
I would give. I would say accept where you are, whether it's like the example I just gave of I want my home to be a bit more tidy, but and it has its moments of tidiness, but I have to accept that right now with the 10 and 2-year-old boys that run and do all these different things in this house, it's not going to be that right now. Maybe when they're both a bit older and calmer, if
Mm.
that ever happens, but when they're older, they will understand like mum needs the house tidy to like focus. But right now it just is what it is. And I think even just with like money, sometimes I used to stress about money a lot. and I wanted to do all these things. I wanted to, whether it wasn't just about my children, but for myself, I had to accept that me trying to rush to do it ended up putting me in debt. So I would say just kind of work with where you are and with what you've got. That would be the first bit of advice. And I think the second would just be to enjoy it and be present, because anything that you're going through is to help you grow. And it might be hard to be like, to not say why me, but I think it's important to like take a moment, and whether you believe in God or not, just be like, what can I learn from this? Because I think if you ask anyone about me, no matter what I've been going through, I'm always someone that I try to make the most of whatever I've got. So and I've never, like, some people might even think it's delusional that I still try to do things when I failed or when I'm not in the best position to make it happen. But yeah, no one's going to stop me from trying. So I would say that would be the second part of advice. And I think the third and final advice is just to not forget you, because no matter what you can give to your children or what you're trying to build or what you need to fix, whether it's debt or yourself or whatever, they need you. So I would say just be kind to yourself. Just what you didn't have, just give it to yourself. Like the love that you might want from a partner or a friend or whatever, or anyone else, you have to learn how to give it to yourself so you can attract it in the right way from others.
Right.
So yeah, just be kind to yourself, love on yourself. Even if you don't love yourself yet, just keep at it until you do. It will come.
Awesome. Awesome. 3 powerful pieces of advice. I like that. Thank you so much for that. I want to come to a final question here about future aspirations. I know you've touched a bit on that already. For anybody who might watch this later thinking, yeah, yes, you just said the reality of life, where you are at and everything else. How do you dream into the future? How can you think of 5 years? So I'm going, without going to specifics for yourself, but where do you see yourself and your family in 5 years?
Yeah, I think for me, it's my business will definitely have grown. If I'm being honest, I'm not always sure if I should move or not, because I feel like this whole idea of making it and then getting out of like the rough area is why it's staying as a rough area. So I do want to start my community interest company here and use it to kind of encourage others to, like, I guess, be community invested. I think that's the term that I'm starting to use for it, because when people from the outside come in and try to change things, they don't know the root of the issues, whereas the people that are here know. So I am in two minds about moving away, but it would be nice to have a garden. So that's not in concrete, but if I did buy this property, I would definitely like to buy this property within the next 5 years. I would like to move at some point just to have more space. But my son in 5 years will be like in year 11, I think. So it would be nice to see him graduate from like secondary school and see where he is with his football journey and everything else. My youngest, I think he'll be finishing primary school. So it'll be nice to see where we are if we're still here, if he would go to the same school, secondary school as my son, or a different school. I would say that we definitely will travel more. We went to Egypt this year, and it was a lovely experience for all of us. And yeah, just like doing more to involve ourselves in the community, to help others, just to like build friendships. Yeah, I would like to see some of my friends get married. Always praying for that. I think just being intentional, just being happy with what we've got, like more financial stability, especially. And yeah, just being able just to enjoy each other and do the things that we want to do. Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. So I guess you can see the journey evolving with all these different stages you've thought it through already, and you could see maybe what could be a challenge, but then you find a way to overcome it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay. I think I'm learning not to worry about the future as much as I used to. I think I just try to stay prayed up, as people put it. I try to, I know I said this word a lot, but I try to just be intentional with, like, if I know I want something in the future, what am I doing right now to make that possible? So right now I'm clearing my debt. I'm rebuilding my credit. I'm just trying to pour into my children. So when they are of an age where they're out in the world by themselves, yeah, they're just able to navigate through and stay true to who they are.
Mm.
Yeah.
Awesome. You remind me of a quote I heard once. It said, your future is determined by your decisions you make today. And
Yeah.
so that's why it's good to be intentional about what you and I do. So, Nadine, this has been a wonderful session together. How can people contact you? I mean, can people contact you if they needed some advice or pointed in the right direction,
Yeah.
or what? So how can they reach you, or should they just go to your blog? If it's your blog, I'll put it in the chat so they can
Yeah.
always find you or follow you on social media as well.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to find me, my name is Prosperous Kei on Instagram, but you can also reach out to me through my blog, which is prosprouskei.com. And my email and contact information can be found in the contact area of that website. But yeah, I will eventually be looking for support for the CIC. So yeah, people can reach out to me, whether it's for to give advice or to get advice or to offer support or their knowledge. Yeah, I'm always open to meeting and connecting with people.
Nadine, thank you so much for sharing your story and your insights. And I believe tons of people are going to benefit from this. And I will look forward to having a follow up conversation in a few years' time.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you so much.